can't stop. I'm like, I get it. People got things to do, places to be, and people to see. I get it. But somebody's life is on the line here. And when I thought to myself, when they landed the plane, I said, man, is that where we've gotten to as a society, to where a destination is more important than another individual's life? Is that where we've gotten to as a society, that goals, dreams, and aspiration is more important than another individual's life? Meaning that interactions with people now, we say, hey, how you doing? But we don't really mean, hey, how you doing? Meaning the interactions are totally off course in terms of seeing an individual through the lenses of something different and seeing them as, this is a person's soul that I have the opportunity to impact instead of bypass. And so my destination is more important than this individual. And so they were moaning and groaning, not about the guy having a heart attack and he's fighting for his life and we got to stop to get him help. They were moaning and groaning because where they were going, they couldn't get there in the manner and the fashion of which they wanted to get there. And when I think about life, I think more times than not, I say, man, what is it, right? What is it that shifts the individual? And a lot of times when I think about it, I think at the core of what it is the transaction. And when I say the transaction, it's when you give something a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of passion, a certain amount of dedication and commitment to a certain thing, and you expect something from that certain thing, and you don't get what you expected. The transaction is the problem. Meaning, like, if you're in a marriage and you come in and you're dedicated, you're cleaning, you're cooking, you're washing clothes, and then you don't get the appreciation that you thought you were gonna get, sooner or later it's gonna be a problem. And I think more times than not, in life, people treat God like a Santa Claus. And then when they don't get the gifts that they thought they were gonna get, it's a problem. Like, I'm a firm believer that God redirects and maneuvers us when he has us on a mission, right? And in the redirection, I think true courage is the ability to embrace what we don't understand. Because I know anybody can accept and embrace something that they do understand and that they know the end result. But I think true courage is when you find yourself in the midst of an opposition, piece of adversity, or situation, and when you're in the midst of it, you're thinking, man, how did this happen and how did I get here? But you still have a certain level of perspective to say, even though I don't understand it, even though I don't like it, I can still trust God even though I can't trace God. And so when you speak about redirection, I'll never forget, like a couple days ago, you had the September 11th incident, terrible situation. A lot of people lost their lives, senseless act, right? And so I'll never forget, when I was at Tennessee, I was doing some research. I was in my master's program, and I was doing some research on the situation. And I remember watching a particular clip of the situation. And I'm watching things happen, watching the camera sway back and forth, watching people jump out of the building, run out of the building. And I read an article, and in this article they spoke about people that lives were spared because of situations that happened and they were out of their control. And a lot of people didn't speak about it because a lot of people didn't know about it. So in turn, Pastor, they talked about this one gentleman that worked in one of the buildings. And that morning, I'll never forget, they said he was getting ready to leave home, and his wife came to him and said, hey, can you take our daughter to kindergarten today? And he responded, I really can't do it. I really need to get to work. And the wife says, can you please do it? I really need you to do this. I really need to get to work. That's what he said. I really need to get to work. The wife responds again, please, can you take her to kindergarten? He accepted. And the timing of him taking his daughter to kindergarten, when the building got hit, because of that incident, things transpired with him and his daughter and his wife, and he couldn't make it in time, the time of which he thought he was going to make it, and because of that interaction, it spared his life. He couldn't control it. One gentleman, he got on the New Jersey Turnpike, headed to the same building on the New Jersey Turnpike. It was an accident. Something happened. It stopped, right? And because it stopped, and I'm sure he was on his way to work, and when it stopped, I'm sure he was fussing and he was mad as all get out. But he couldn't control the situation, and because he couldn't control the situation, his life was spared. One gentleman, they sent him to get some donuts or something. He went to get some donuts. He's coming out of the building. Somebody spills coffee on his shirt. He has to go home to change his shirt, and because of a situation that happened, him going home to change his shirt, it spared his life. One gentleman got a new pair of shoes, walking down the sidewalk, started to get blisters on his feet, had to go back home, change his shoes. Because he had to change his shoes, spared his life. situations that happened that was out of their control. And when you think about when things happen, the first thing we try to do as individuals, how can I control it and how can I manage it? And if I can't control it and manage it, now I'm frustrated and I'm mad about it. In the words of an older gentleman, he told me one day, he said, young man, you can't speed up the river and you can't slow it down. At a certain point, you gotta have some faith. How many times do we get redirected and we don't know what we're being protected from? We're busting in the head. Like, it's an amazing thing. Now when things happen, my perspective is totally different. Like when I'm in the airport and my flight get delayed and people go to fussing and I see them getting mad and you know, you could be by them and they're getting mad and you almost get mad. I'm like, I gotta walk off. They're about to make me mad, right? But when I walk off, I'm like, God, what are you protecting me from? Like when situations happen now, I'm like, life, what are you trying to teach me right now? Like, God, what can I extract from this situation since I don't like it and I don't understand it? I'm sure lessons and blessings, stages and phases, I'm sure it's something in it that I can extract and apply to some area of my life. James chapter 1, consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, when you face trials of many kind, because the testing of your faith goes on to produce perseverance, and perseverance must finish its race so that you may be complete and lacking nothing. In other words, we got to go through something in order to become the individuals that God wants us to become. So redirection, bring it. Opposition, bring it. Not saying that every day I wake up, I'm like, adversity hit me. No. No. But when it comes, I look at it different. Like I ask people one question all the time. I'm like, what is it you want? Like, what do you want? People, oh, I want money. I'm like, cool, all right, yep. I'm like, but the true measure of your wealth is if you got it and you lost it, then how much would you be worth? I mean, how much is your character and your integrity worth? Because that's the most valuable possession that we got. And the thing I love about character, every individual in here, when we were born into our respective hospitals, nobody came into our room and said, hey man, you automatically inherit character. It's something that we got to fight and we got to build it every single, it's just like the Christian walk, the journey. You got to fight and you got to build it every single day. And it's a big difference between professing to be a Christian and actually living as a Christian. And so in my life, right, the biggest redirection, of course, came in 2006, right? But at every phase of my life, I got redirected, but God also maneuvered me, right? And like I said before, I think when God has you on a mission, right, God will maneuver you through certain situations, and even when you can't stand it or understand it, God will still maneuver you to get you to the destination that he's trying to get you to. And I used to wonder as a kid, like, man, why am I growing up in this certain environment and I'm not getting touched? Like, I'm coming up in an environment where people are getting murdered. I'm coming up in an environment where they called it Little Vietnam. I'm coming up in an environment where people are doing drugs, people doing everything. I'm coming up in an environment where I got robbed, right? But nothing happened to me. And I'm coming up in this environment in this 2-bedroom home with 14 people. And at every phase of my life, God sent somebody. And when he sent them, the only difference between me and some of my friends that I grew up around, when he sent them, I was smart enough to listen. In other words, young people, it takes 21 years to become 21. No matter how talented, how brilliant, how smart, and how powerful you are, it's just certain things you won't understand until you get experience in order to understand it. And I first fell in love with football. I was 7 years old. I was playing in the street. Bloody, pure passion. Not too much smarts, but passion, right? And God sent the man one night. Never forget it. Me and my cousins out there getting after it in the street, light pole to light pole, street lights pop on. 10 minutes before we had to go in the house, we're trying to get our last 10 minutes in. This blue pickup truck comes down the street. I back out on one side, walk 3 younger cousins back out of the street on the opposite side, walk, and we're trying to get this truck by. I'm like, come on, man, get out 10 minutes in. The truck is just cruising. He's looking at us, we're looking at him. He pulls on the sidewalk. He gets out of the truck, first white guy we ever saw in our neighborhood. Every drug dealer on the corner took off running, automatically assuming he's a cop, right? Nicest guy in the world, nicest guy in the world. I still talk to him till this day. walked over, man, y'all want to play football on grass? I'm like, man, I would love that. Where you been, brother? He's like, go and get your guardian. I go in the house, my Uncle JJ is there. I'm like, Uncle, please come and talk to this guy. Uncle comes outside. Guy extends his hand. Hey, man, Trey Hurst. Don't even supposed to be in this neighborhood. Drop the kid home, 3 blocks up, roll down just to see what it was like. And his exact words, I see these knuckleheads playing tackle football in the street. He said, I run a league across town. Thank you for bringing him out, sign him up. Great opportunity, really helpful. My uncle responds, sir, we greatly appreciate it. He said, but I hate to inform you, we just don't have the money for anything like that. And he pointed at me. He said, his mother, she's working a double shift at Wendy's right now. She definitely don't have it. And he said the other 3, their fathers are in and out of prison, so it's definitely not happening. That's why they're in the street. Coach, without any hesitation, says, I tell you what, you bring them to the park tomorrow, I'll pay for it. Didn't even see us play. He just see us out there tossing the ball around, and he turned his truck up, and he just seen some kid, meaning he didn't see no moves, he didn't see my little spin off, he didn't see none of that, right? My uncle said, okay. Uncle brought us to the park the next day. I'm standing in line because I'm intrigued by this guy. I'm standing in line beside him. I watch him take cash out of his own pocket. Pays for me and my 2 young cousins to play. And my family is going to go to college with me and my 2 young cousins. But I wanted to understand the man behind the action. Because it wasn't something that he did just for us. He did it for anybody that he felt was in need. Meaning it was his essence and who he was as an individual. It wasn't a front. And so most nights I'll be in the park late, 9:30, 10 o'clock, waiting on my mother to get off the shift at Wendy's. She worked right around the corner. One night she couldn't make it. She called, Coach, can you take Inky home? I can't get off work. He said, sure. She said, Inky, I'll drop you off last. You live right by Turner Field. I was 5 minutes away from Turner Field. So we get to my house. I get out of this truck. I'm standing on the sidewalk. Back to my house, and Coach is looking out the window, and he says, all right, catch you later. And I said, Coach, can I ask you one question? He gets out of the truck, comes around, I said, what you got, He said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. And I asked him, what you got, I said, why do you do that? Ever forget it. And in its simplicity, it was yet profound when he said to me, as long as you make sure that somebody else's life is okay, he said, God will make sure that your life is okay. And he got in his truck and he left. And the way I processed it was, as long as everything I aspire to get, everything I want, everything I'm connected to, and everything I'm a part of, as long as the purpose is always greater than me, I'll be fine. In other words, as long as I'm on a mission, like dreams and all that, that's cool, but dreams is what I want to do. My mission is what God has put me on this earth to do. And so if I'm connected to my mission, God will find a way to maneuver me through certain situations to get me to my destination to accomplish the mission that he has for my life. And so 2 years later, I come in contact with this amazing 8th grade math teacher and basketball coach. Me and my wife was in this class. He told me one day, you're going to marry that girl. I said, you lost your mind. And he walked my wife down the aisle at our wedding. But this gentleman, one day after school, he comes to me, and I'm on the corner in my neighborhood, and he rides up in a red Dodge Ram pickup truck. And I'm standing on the corner with my uncles, and he rolls down the window, and my uncle tapped me. He said, Inky, who is that? I said, man, that's my 8th grade math teacher and basketball coach. He said, what does he want? I said, I don't know. Coach asked me, Inky, what are you doing out here? I said, I'm hanging out. He said, no, you didn't hear me. What are you doing out here? I said, I'm hanging out. He said, get in the truck and take you home. I get in the truck, ride down the block. I get out. He said, hey, man, I just want to tell you, Ink, you're better than that. I said, better than what? You're better than that. I said, man, listen. I said, you see that corner you just picked me up from? My uncle wears 3-4X t-shirt. He'll just be coming in the house in the morning from standing on the corner selling drugs, and you'll see me in the morning in your class in that 3 or 4 inch t-shirt.